Hey everyone, welcome to this week's edition of Title Scoop. This week we're going to talk about PUDs. I've had several questions over the last few weeks about PUDs, and generally speaking, the questions are the same. The lender is reaching out asking, one, either to confirm the property is a part of a PUD, or two, can we get the PUD endorsement? In which case we have to confirm if the property is in a PUD. So PUD stands for Plan Unit Development, but most people think of them as HOA communities. The thing that's interesting is that PUDs are a way to develop, but they're also a regulatory process. So sometimes people get PUDs and condos confused, and although they're similar, they do have differences. So a PUD, the unit is going to be a lot. A condo, the unit is going to be a space of error. A PUD is going to, you won't have any direct interest in your common areas. The HOA actually owns those, whereas in a condo, each owner has a percentage interest in the common areas. Third, the PUD, the HOA or the association, is usually in a corporate form, whereas with a condo, it's usually unincorporated. And then last, although both have declarations that are usually filed, they have different statutes that actually regulate those. So you're going to want to know the differences in the statutes when you're looking at them. So the creation of a PUD, for the most part, is based on a few things. One, you're going to want to see a recording of a plot of subdivision. That's going to identify lots, common areas, maybe property that's held by the developer. You're also going to want to see recordings of the declaration of easements, covenants, conditions, restrictions, and liens. And that's going to provide a variety of things. It could have restrictions, easements, it might have a party wall, right of first refusal, might have the priority of the lien assessments, maybe maintenance assessments, how members join. Usually that's automatic, but you never know. Maybe they're going to have a process, but usually it's automatic by ownership. Maybe the creation of covenants that run with the land. The other thing is within those declarations, they usually are going to create a homeowners association. So you're going to want to have both of those. You're going to have all those things together. And again, it's usually created in the declarations, what the HOA is and what they do and how they're going to govern. Again, everything is state specific, so you're going to want to know your specific state requirements, but those are the things you're going to be looking for. So if you are examining a property or have been asked to confirm if there's a PUD, there's some things you're going to want to make sure that you look at. You want to first make sure that you have a valid creation of the PUD. And again, you're going to want to know your state rules and statutes as far as what is required for a PUD. When you're doing the exam, make sure you set out all the restrictive covenants. You're going to have to read those because there are things within them that you're going to want to set out on your commitment. You're going to want to make sure there's no forfeiture provisions, reversionary provisions. If there's a right of first refusal, you're going to want to set that out because you may have to do additional things in order to clear that. You're going to need the association to waive that right of first refusal. If there's any liens or assessments, you're going to want to know, one, if there's a super priority. Now that could be statutory. Again, you're going to need to know your state. But if it's not statutory, maybe it's set out in the declaration and it says that the HOA liens take a super priority over the mortgage, in which case you're going to need to subordinate the lien or pay it off. If there's encroachments, you're definitely going to want to set those out. I hope you're setting encroachments out either way, but make sure you set them out on this commitment. And again, just set it out really clearly on the commitment, set out what the HOA is, and again, we're going to need payoffs if there's assessments or fees due. So if you've been asked to issue a PUD endorsement, you're also going to need to look at a few things. So the PUD endorsement is affirmative coverage, so you can't just issue it unless you can justify issuing it, as with many endorsements. And it's the Alta 5 series. So what you're going to look at is the same things you're looking at while examining, but maybe in a little bit in more detail. So you're going to want to look at your plat. If you have a survey, great. That sometimes will give you a lot of information on whether we can do this. You definitely want to look at your declarations, making sure to see what was filed, what's restricted, what's not. And then the one thing that we sometimes get asked is, can we include the common areas as cover, like insuring over common areas or covering the common areas? And the answer to that is no. We can't extend coverage to common areas because those common areas are owned by the homeowners association, not the individual owners. So when you're looking at your restrictions in various documents to do the PUD endorsement, make sure there's no restrictions that have been violated. If there are, we may not be able to do it, and likely not, because we can't issue this coverage without it being clear of restrictions. What that could be is maybe you can only have one house on a lot, and for some reason there's two houses. Probably not likely, but again, you're just going to want to make sure there's no restrictions being violated. If there are forfeiture or reversionary provisions, you probably are not going to be able to issue the endorsement unless it's expressly subordinate to your mortgage. So again, you're going to want to look at that in the restrictions. If there's maintenance assessments, those either need to be paid in full, or it could be subordinate. And again, what you're going to want to do is if you have a maintenance assessment that maybe doesn't have that it's subordinate to the insured mortgage, and it's not written in your declarations, absolutely give the 5.1 because that does not ensure priority. If you know that you have a state that gives super priority, there's a few, I think Alaska, Colorado, Connecticut, Minnesota, Nevada, West Virginia are off the top of my head. Those are the ones that you know there's a super priority on your assessments, so you're going to want to give the 5.1 no matter what, so we're not giving priority coverage. And then if you know there's significant encroachments or boundary conflicts, don't issue the endorsement because that could cause issues. Lastly, if there's a right of first refusal, you could issue. You just got to make sure that that right of first refusal has been handled. All right, with that, I know that was a lot of information in a few minutes, but if you guys have questions, reach out. If not, we'll see you next week.